I got a note that says help. What is that for? The US Bank? No. Oh. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we can always just load money onto a credit card.
Hello.
Hi.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey there.
Hey, Carla, will you make me a co-host? Because I'll be sharing a PowerPoint.
John.
I hope no one will notice I'm wearing the same shirt that I was Tuesday night.
Everybody's noticing.
Only you were the only one on that.
That's actually,
Helen might know.
Helen was there.
Okay. With Zoom, you can get away with anything.
Exactly. Is that the same room you were in?
Exactly the same. Same shirt.
All right, so we're waiting for our fearless leader, Marie, and we'll get going. Make sure we honor everybody's time. There she is.
There she is. Yes, here I am. Am I the last one?
Let's see. 1, 2, 4, 5,
3, 4.
We are missing.
1. Oh, Stanley.
Yeah, we're missing Stanley.
Yeah.
Okay, let's give it.
Yeah, give it just a minute.
Yeah, exactly. He has not communicated to you as not coming, right?
No, and let me see if I have his cell phone.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's only like 20 seconds late. So
Exactly. We'll give him a break.
let's be kind of nice with each other here. You know? Mona is 1 minute late. Should we start without him?
Yeah, I'm just double checking to see if an email didn't come in.
Yeah. I can see everybody's breathing in some capacity, so that's good.
I think we should congratulate Marie on her election to the Ross Valley School District Board.
Well, thank you, John.
Oh, terrific. Congratulations.
That's going to be a tremendous amount of work. So I think.
Boy, I'll say, John, you know.
I mean, and you do
John,
too,
you
Lori.
know.
Yeah.
Well, so does
I thought
Lori.
you told me it was easy.
No, well, in my day, but well, not even, that wasn't even true. But today, that takes a lot of courage to do that. Lori, don't you think?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's wonderful. How old are your kids?
So I have my 2 kids are 12 and 14, and my stepkids are 16 and 18.
Okay. Wow, got your hands full.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Well,
Lori,
I think we should get going. Stanley.
Should we get started?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's get started. So I officially call the August 27th Financial Advisory Committee meeting to order, everybody. So welcome, everybody. I hope everything is doing well, and you know, everybody seems to be healthy. So we should prevail. That's my word of the day. So I understand that Mayor Ford Green will not be able to attend tonight's meeting due to a conflict. And Dave, I do not know if we have special guests coming this evening, or if someone else is joining, or if it's just us.
No, it's Helen and I have a PowerPoint to go over the content tonight.
Okay, so no special guests, a part of you, and we know you already. So maybe we go through the approval of minutes, our item 2, minutes of June 25. I do hope you had a chance, or maybe not, but you know, if not, just hopefully open the document and quickly review the minutes Carla sent to us by email. I think it was a great recording of the session. So first of all, thank you, Carla. And I would like to call for a motion to approve the minutes of our June 25 meeting.
So moved.
Okay. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Richard. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
So I'm just, to make sure it's properly recorded, I'm just going to call your name and make sure that I record us all here. Let me just check. So Laurie,
Aye.
Forrest,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
Eric. And I think this is it for today, right?
That was it.
I think that's it, right?
Yeah.
So without further ado, Dave or Helen, do you want to take over the next agenda item?
Absolutely.
And
Thank
Dave, do
you.
you want us to have the section, the question after the item 3, after the item 4? How do you want that to? How do you want to participate?
The subcommittee discussion, I think we can do that during the request for future agenda items.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, so let's get through tonight's, as you all know, tonight's content is regarding shared services with the town of San Anselmo. Helen and I have prepared a PowerPoint to demonstrate what we're doing now around shared services and kind of their impact on how the town operates, you know, from all the way to the big ones down to the small ones. And then we have a few ideas that might be coming down the pike for additional shared services. And then we'd like to get some feedback from you. So just to, you know, I don't ever want to assume anything. So when we say shared services, basically Marin has 11 towns and cities. and the county is the, the unincorporated areas. And, all of us virtually do the same things, no matter what size we are. We all are responsible for maintaining our roads and, our building departments and our recreation departments. And some of us have libraries, some of these don't, police and fire. So, with so many smaller cities, there's been an effort over the years to see how we might be able to join together to offer some of those services. And that's what we're going to kind of talk about tonight. We're going to give you sort of a historic history lesson on how that's happened, especially here in the Ross Valley. And then we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff that we normally might not really think about as shared services, but they are. And then there's, we're always looking for new opportunities. So we're going to go over a few things that we might see falling into place in the next few years. So if you give me a moment, I'll try to get this into the big form. And I'm going to sort of walk us through this, but I'm going to turn it over to Helen for some of the more technical budgetary things related to the two safety service agencies. So can everybody see the screen? Okay. Once again, thanks everybody. There's our agenda. We're going to start by talking about the public safety JPAs. Now, JPAs are joint power authorities, and that is basically a way to create an agency that has several members, maybe two to as many as 12 in our case. And then we're going to talk about some other of the shared services that are some are JPAs and some are contracts and different ways that we're approaching things in town. And then we're going to get to some questions. So we're going to start off with the budget impacts of our public safety services, JPAs. We're unique in San Anselmo where we have both our fire department, our Ross Valley Fire Department is seated in a JPA, a long-standing JPA, and we'll talk about that first. The Ross Valley Fire Service was created in 1982 by merging the fire departments in San Anselmo and Fairfax. This was amended to create the Ross Valley Fire Department in 2010 when Sleepy Hollow Fire District joined. Now, so the Sleepy Hollow Fire District is basically everything past the Sleepy Hollow sign all the way to San Domenico School. That's unincorporated county, but it's an actual fire district. So they officially became a third member in 2010. And you can see at that point, the town of San Anselmo was almost 53% of that agency, with Fairfax at 30.4 and Sleepy Hollow at 16.7. And then on July 1st, 2012, the town of Ross became a member, and the cost sharing percentages changed to what you see there. And a lot of times these turnovers happen at times of retirement of a chief, because what you're really doing when you're consolidating and expanding your JPA is you are taking advantage of sharing the upper level management services, which a lot of times that's where your costs are. And it's really in a small area like we are, it's very beneficial because you really don't need a lot of these top level executives, especially when you're doing something like fire. On July 11th, 2018, the fire board approved, you probably all know this, we had the retirement of a fire chief, and the board went through a process of decision-making of either hiring another chief for this JPA or actually working with the county to provide executive level management / fire chief and other administrative services. And we did a full recruitment. We got, I think 10 or 12 candidates, and, a lot of those candidates were sort of at the end of their career. It wasn't like there was some really great people who were going to come and serve us for a long time. So the decision at that time was made to join with the Marin County Fire Department. And that brought us Chief Jason Weber, and also an on-site administrative deputy chief, along with the fire marshal from the county, and also the assistant chief, Mark Brown. They all kind of were put into place as our management team. And there's so much sharing. It was a natural fit, and it's worked really well, in my opinion. So that was in lieu, and that was virtually the same cost as hiring a standalone chief. But what it did is it brought us a lot broader, a broader range of experience and abilities. So that's that one. back over to the Central Marin Police. The Twin Cities Police Authority was formed in 1980 by a joint exercise of powers agreement between the Corte Madera and Larkspur. You probably remember those cars if you grew up here. On January of 2013, the town became a member with those two cities to form the Central Marin Police Authority. And we've been the Central Marin Police with our partner agencies been doing that since 2013. I mean, as you can see, our current cost model, we're at a 37% and on down the line, Larkspur at 33 and Corte Madera at almost 30. This is where I'm going to turn it over to Helen to kind of talk about the financials and you know how the town pays for these services and kind of where they fit into our general fund budget. So take it away, Helen.
Good evening, everyone. So for the town for fiscal year 2021, our adopted general fund operating budget is 16.5, close to $16.5 million. Out of this, you can see from this graph, for police service is about 28% of our total general fund budget. And then for fire service is about 27%. And then for the town, like miscellaneous, you know, we are paying debt service payment, all the stuff, we are, you know, about 38%. Of course, we also have this piece as a transfer out, which is transfer out to other fund, such as insurance or equipment or for capital improvement related. Technically, that's not really operation, but we kind of just look at the entire general fund budget, you know, listing here, sale percentage. Basically, between police and fire is about 55%, is more than half our budget cost. Next slide, please. For Ross Valley Fire Department, their budget for fiscal year 2021, the operation is about 11.5 million. They have 34 budget full-time employee, which is out this 34 is 30 of them is firefighters, captains, and then battalion chief, public safety related, and then 4 position is more administration, such as admin service, and then their fire inspector cost. For all their fundings, where the funding come from for Ross Valley Fire Department, there are come from member agencies contribution. And you see early slide, it had a percentage, each agency, how much they, you know, for this year, how much their percentage share. And also they also have miscellaneous income, which is have plan check fees or resale inspection fees or investment income. So from all other revenue sources they generate through their operation. For 2020-21, I think right now a lot of people really care about how much pension costs, how much retiree health insurance. So that's why I kind of put this couple numbers on this slide, just show you, you know, how much they pay annually. So for 2021, their annual payment for pension is about $1.9 million, close to $2 million. For their retiree health cost, they're actually determining contributions of $631,000. Next slide, please. I also look at back, go on their website, look at all their budget documentation, try to figure out, you know, all the information available, able to come up 9 years, the cost for the town. So pretty much at 2012-13, our cost is $3 million. So each year have an increase. At this current year, we are contribute $4.3 million. So definitely it's about past 9 years, about a 1.3 million difference. So
Helen, could I ask a question? How is the formula determined?
I assuming when the contract in place, probably the town managers or you know, finance director at that time they working out, but I'm not sure exactly.
Does the formula change every year? Or is it static?
Not for fire department. For fire department, it's fixed.
It's
Okay.
fixed at per capita cost, basically, John.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for Central Marin PD, again, similar information presented. Their annual operating budget about 13 million. They have 46 full-time employees and 42 of them are sworn officers. Their funding similar as the Ross Valley Fire Department, they're also from member contribution. They have 12 million, and then they generate other revenues such as grant related, and they have $794,000. For their budget, pension expenditure for 2021 is about 2.7 million. Definitely is bigger than the fire department. For their retirement health cost, since I don't do their budget, I could not extract information from their budget documentation. So I look into their per year audit number. So it's about $657,000 for their retiree health cost. It's a very similar like the Ross Valley Fire Department. Dave, next slide, please. This information I based on their budget documentation. So I grabbed this number. So I think that this 2010-11, that time the town still has our own police department. The cost about 4.5 million. For 11-12, it's about 4.7. So when we merge with Central Marin PD, same like the beginning of the year, the combined is kind of lower the cost. So for example, like 15-16 year is about 3.8. It's almost $1 million drop from 2011-12. However, as cost of living adjustment, eventually the cost going up trend is as current year is 4.5. The Central Marin PD this year, they asked the member for 0 increase for this year's budget, so which is a very good thing, help our budget a lot on this sense.
So Helen, could I just ask, isn't one of the reasons for the more recent increases because the state has required greater pension contributions by all public agencies?
I think it's based on the formula they talk about unfunded pension liability. I think liability is there, but just maybe the for example, 08, 09, the investment changes, all those kind of factors. I think the increase definitely combination of cost of living adjustment and also the performance of PERS and then needed for unfunded liability. Richard, you have something you want to say, add on to it, or?
Oh, I was just trying to see what it worked out in terms of a percentage change. Just curious, like since 2015-16 and then 5 years or so of growth adds about, what is that, about 600,000 or 700,000?
Yeah, close to. Let me do calculation quickly.
Okay, yeah, I'm
It's
just
about 17%.
17 over 5 years. So that's between 3 and 4% a year. So
Yeah, and and there's typically an employment contract that's baked into there at a 3% cost of living increases. So I think Helen nailed it. That we're typically seeing the increases year over year. Most of it's compensation, and some of it is a fluctuation in the CalPERS required contributions.
Well, my point is that it isn't the reason for the increase in the last few years is not because of greater generosity to the police. It's
Right.
because the state has required higher pension contributions.
And that's equal, kind of more or less equal staff, right? When there is not like plus 3 people from one year to the other, it has been fairly consistent, right?
Yeah, the operation doesn't really change too much.
Okay.
We did skinny down after the consolidation. Some people retired. That's why you see the dip in the cost in the mid 2010s, the teens, and then it stabilized, and now it's going up at somewhat of a normal rate. But John's right. This is certainly not extra money that is paying for additional services. It's to maintain what we already have.
To the cost, yeah.
Yeah.
So we also did some comparison data. We look at each agency's, our neighbor jurisdiction, their population, compare with the budget cost. What do we get out of this police service? For example, San Anselmo, we have $355 per capita cost, right? We are not the lowest. The lowest one is in Novato, they have $323, but we're definitely not the highest. For Ross, their per capita cost is $695. So that's just comparison. our cost per capita for the police services. So.
Well, I think that actually, let's stop on that. This is a really important slide because there's a lot of conversation. Sometimes you hear people saying, oh, it's so much better in Fairfax because they're getting, local police and everybody knows everybody. But the fact is they're paying a lot more money in Fairfax for a separate local police department, and even more so in Ross, right? So it's always a trade-off between local control, local, contact and budget. So my personal opinion is that we've done pretty well in San Anselmo in kind of balancing the cost versus the service.
Right.
Could we have, and I don't necessarily want to maybe like, it's not necessarily a conversation, could we have something like that with the number of agents? Like, let's say if you have 40 agents and we have 37% of 40 agents, that's an equivalent of, I'm making it up, 7.2 agent.
Are you talking about officers?
Mm-hmm.
That's harder to tease out. These numbers are in the budget document. We could try and
Not necessarily to do it. I'm happy to to try that. That might tell a different story. And I'm taking that on myself. Let me try.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, as far as like how many officers each department has.
And I could just have San Anselmo versus Fairfax just for my own search.
Oh,
you know what
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and Marie, if you need help with that, that'd be great.
Okay.
This stuff was easy for us to kind of grab a hold of.
Oh, I'm not asking you to do the work. If you don't have it, I'm happy to search for it. Okay.
That sounds
Thank
great.
you.
I just wanted to.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to jump back into that question about where the cost share percentage came from, because I see that Larkspur and Corte Madera both have different per capita costs. Is that like a breakdown of the services rendered, like we call the police more or something like that?
That's a great question for us. I appreciate you asking that. So the funding formula that we use at the police department is there are certain costs within the police budget. They're just split three ways: the administrative, the school resource officers, things like that. And then there's a portion of the budget that is actually set by formula, and that portion is 55% of that portion is based on calls for service. And quite frankly, we have a lot more calls for service in San Anselmo than the other two towns. Total crimes is another metric, total citations and total accidents. So that's where you're going to see the variance year to year. That gets reset. And, San Anselmo, we had our own police department. We had people who felt comfortable. Every time there's something that goes on, people call, and that counts for a call for service, where the culture in the other agencies, they weren't quite as liberal about making those calls. So, we're going to see that flatten out over time, but right now that's it gives us a little bit of a bump up in our costs because of that. And that was a formula that was agreed upon the consolidation.
Although Corte Madera is higher despite the lower population because of all the shopping center activity.
The total crime bumps them up because they have the two shopping centers. And I wanted to point out before I head into this next section, it's sort of obvious, but the most likely areas for these kinds of shared services agreements or the creation of districts are fire departments. That's something where it's very geographically oriented. They're doing, once again, the exact same type of prevention and suppression work. So we've seen the Southern Marin Fire District formed in the last 10, 20 years. We've had a long-term agreement. The Novato Fire District is a very strong district up north. I think we're going to see more of those consolidations. You save money, obviously, when you do that. Then there's these sort of what they call these smaller districts that get funding in different ways, like Kentfield. Kentfield's a very well-funded district. So, but I think that we're going to see some movement both there and also in police services. Police services are a little more difficult for the public to swallow as far as consolidations because of that local. It's really what I feel is a perception of local control. We've been able to do it successfully. There's still people in town that don't like that we don't have our name on the side of the car, or for other reasons. But just to point that out. Public Works is another area that you'll see that there's opportunities for some shared services. And shared services don't always equal cheaper. Sometimes they equal efficiency and expanded services in a way. But I'll go into what some of the other things that we're doing. So because of Marin's, I don't know how unique it is, but we have 11 various sized towns and cities. So there's been a number of things that have, a number of functions that cities, as I mentioned before, that cities sort of have to be in charge of that have been consolidated into different agencies. And the sort of, I don't know if you'd call it the appendix. I always think of an appendix that catches weird things in your body. The MGSA has been the really kind of general institution that, started off as a streetlight agency. All the streetlights in the county are maintained by this agency. It grew to deal with abandoned vehicle abatement, taxi cab regulation. I don't know if anybody's used Marin Map, but it's a great GIS system that allows for us not to have to buy our own. We use Marin Map for everything. The Marin Climate and Energy Partnership, that's a group that does a lot of work for greenhouse gas reduction, sort of collectively puts out policy and programs. And then McStop is our stormwater prevention program that all of the towns and cities use. And that's, we've been very strong partners with them with a lot of the drainage work we've done in town. More recently, actually just, I believe in June, the MGSA took over the functions of the now defunct Marin Telecommunications Agency, MTA. And basically that agency became less and less necessary to have staff and everything because it handled the cable franchise, basically distribution of dollars, and they also had a relationship with the Marin, what's it, the TV, I can't think of it, MC3, the public access center over in Centerville. So that was pulled apart, and the functions of the franchisees were put into the Marin Telecommunications Agency. So that's, as I've mentioned, they now have a kind of an interesting grouping of functions. The board on that is 4 city managers, 4 public works directors, and I think an at-large person. So it's great because we wouldn't have staff to deal with all of these things in the smaller towns. Another one, very similarly, is the Hazardous and Solid Waste GAPA. They've rebranded themselves as Zero Waste Marin. It was established in 1966, and it's all the cities and towns in the county once again. They basically deal with our programs and processes that comply with state diversion mandates. We're supposed to be diverting 50% of our waste by 2020. And I think it even goes up to 75% of the waste in 2025. They're also, they handle the household hazardous waste disposal, which is co-located at the Marin sanitary site. And they do a lot of public education as well. And we work with them on a micro grant program where we've put in a series of, for instance, drinking fountains with water bottle fillers. And that's a way to reduce people buying the disposable water bottles. MarinNet is another one. People don't probably realize that all of our libraries, and we actually are, I think we're lucky enough to have our own, as are all these other towns that are listed. The rest of them are kind of part of the county of Marin. That is the entire information network that's connected to the library and all the automated resources. And if you're a user, you know that you can go onto MarinNet, you can search a book. If it's not available at San Anselmo, they can ship it up from another library and you can pick it up here. Similarly, you can drop it off here. It'll be so it's a great sort of managed network, and all the library directors make up the board on that one. So they meet monthly. Linda's our librarian and assistant town manager is a leader in that group. And you know, it'd be hard to operate without that sort of collective program. Animal control, obviously, is contract with Marin Humane. We're way too small to have our own department there. Emergency services, we work very closely with County OES, Office of Emergency Services. We've been working with them every day since COVID started, and now with the wildfires. And we really connect with them during the rainy season, obviously, with our proclivity to flood. We have use of the EOC up at the county when there's an emergency. We get training, and we're just connected on an ongoing basis. There's probably the biggest thing we use is their web EOC, which is a way for us to manage an incident over the internet. And that's something that's hosted as part of this contract. You know, the Marin County Elections Department is something that's done collectively, obviously, but that's something that, you know, if we didn't have that network, we'd be trying to do it on our own, which would be impossible. Midas is our county-wide internet that's managed up at the county by the county IT. You can get it if you've been down to town hall. It's pretty much all around us. It's in the library actually has a newer and different one, but it's our free internet that we offer at the rec department and here at town hall. So those are some of the sort of, you know, things that you don't really think about on a day-to-day basis. They're just sort of part of what we do. The services are provided here, but they're not done by us specifically. They're done through a collective effort. Public Works, they probably do the most aside from fire and police. There's a lot of coordination through the Department of Public Works throughout the county. We're currently doing a joint Surrey Slough project with Corte Madera, Mill Valley, and Ross. And basically it's, you know, all of us are going in on one bid and getting a better price. You know, it's just a way to get more competitive. We're doing a paving project with Ross on down on Bolinas. We do them all the time. And most of our adjoining towns and cities, we've done them because it's just, if we can coordinate it to stage that whole paving area, and if it's contiguous with the neighboring town, a lot of times we'll just try to get it all done at once because it's kind of weird to stop it at the town limits and then, you know, and then have this hard stop. So those are pretty common. Last year we did a big drainage project with Ross, and we've done others in the past. We do our fleet maintenance. It's a really fancy way to say our few cars that are owned by the town are serviced over in San Rafael. They have a big courtyard and a division within that handles fleet maintenance. So we do that by contract with San Rafael. And I remember we started that probably, I don't know, 8 years ago. And it was pretty dramatic, the savings, because they're just charging us their costs. They're not making money on it. And then because we're the big brother to Ross and Fairfax, we've provided some engineering services to Ross with our in-house staff. And it's nice to be able to do that when it works because Ross doesn't have large capacity in that area. I'm not sure how much we've talked about this, but Helen and her department handles all the financial services for the Ross Valley Fire Department. And we are contracted by the Ross Valley Department to be their finance arm, and we do all of their payroll and all of their finances and get paid for that. And that's it's nice because we have obviously we're located closely and we also have a great relationship, so that's worked out well. And you know, it's a whole nother layer. Once we took it over, we realized how much it was. It was a whole nother agency's worth of work, but I think we've been able to absorb it, and I hope it doesn't drive my staff too crazy. It's a lot. So that's sort of in a nutshell. I asked all the departments to really rack their brains on things that we do in cooperation with our neighbors. So that was a list of that we kind of pulled together. We don't necessarily look at a lot of that stuff. It's just sort of now part of what we do. But when you look at shared services, those are all great examples. And and we're always looking, especially during COVID, as some towns are really seeing significant drop in revenue. It's caused these conversations to really get ramped up. I was at a meeting today where they was talking about centralizing corporation yards, for instance. Maybe there's a way to, be more efficient there. It might be a longer drive to and from, but there's some Central Marin opportunities that are being looked at.
Dave,
yeah.
Oh, excuse me. Maybe I missed it, but also I know that there's some sharing of planning services, at least as far as joint contracting for like the design standards and also inclusionary housing. The cities are banding together to use a single consultant.
Thank you. You know what, Richard? That was actually on Elisa's list, and I meant to put it on there today, and I must have missed it. That's a really great example. So Senate Bill 2 came out, I believe, 2 years ago. And we were able to get some money to approach the development of objective design standards for mostly multi-unit buildings. But that's a huge process. Anything related to that type of planning stuff is pretty arduous. So this was a way for us. I think all but one, I can't remember, I think almost everybody got on board with the county to do that together. That's exactly right. Pooling some of the money that we got from the county along with some other funds. And we're actually going to see, they've been working on it. They had big plans for public meetings right as COVID kicked in. There was going to be something up at the seminary. But those are going to be super important, especially as the state continues to tweak local control over housing opportunities. So it's a way for us to make sure that we can have, you know, kind of what fits into our neighborhood. So thank you. There was another one you mentioned, Richard?
Let me unmute. Yeah, the other one, I think it may be coming up. It's a study of inclusionary housing and in lieu fees. I think that's also the same kind of thing. They're
that's
working with the county to hire a single consultant who will.
Yeah, that is coming down the pike, and those do come down. I think there's a pretty tight knit groups within those different disciplines that work closely together, and nobody wants to have to tackle this on their own, and it just makes a lot of sense. So those are great examples, and then there's probably other ones that I missed, but that's really the driving force behind a lot of towns and cities is how can we do some of this work in a collaborative way. And it's, once again, for both savings and for efficiency and effectiveness. So thank you for those.
So Dave, before you get into opportunities, do you want to maybe pause for any questions about the existing situation?
Yeah. So now that I've kind of laid out what we're doing, anybody have any other questions?
I guess one question I had is what is the budget transparency like with the JPAs? I understand it's probably pretty high with the Ross Valley Fire District, but there was some question around how the funds are allocated within the Central Marin Police Authority.
Oh, right. Yeah, those are, I just actually pulled that funding formula straight from the budget. So this is the police authority's budget, which is available on their front page, and I think that's on the second page. So it's all out there. Yeah, and all the JPAs, if you go to they all have websites and they'll have all their financials there as well. It's an interesting question for something that's going to come up later for us.
Well, let me just actually make a point about that. I mean, although everything is ultimately transparent because nobody's hiding anything, but one of the negatives of having JPAs with police and fire is that issues about the budgets of police and fire never come to town councils, right? So if you're a member of the public that wants to know about how decisions are made about budgets for police and fire, you have to go somewhere else, right? You're not going to find it at the town level. You have to go to the JPA level. It's there, but we never talk about at the council level in San Anselmo. We almost never talk about, is this the right way for police or fire to be spending their money? Those conversations all occur at the JPA level. Now, I mean, again, it's ultimately you can find it, and we don't get a lot of people coming to our town council meetings anyway, right? But at least, but just to note that you could argue, and occasionally somebody makes this point. We don't really know what police are doing. We don't know what fire are doing at the town council level. They for police in Fairfax, they do know, because Fairfax is all run directly by the town council, right? So just to be sure that people are aware of that, that issue. I mean, it's not even an issue because nobody ever raises it, but it's out there.
John, isn't there a liaison? One of you being on
two.
Exactly, right? I remember to have seen that somewhere.
Right. So there's plenty of accountability. I mean, there's 2 council members on the police council. There's 2 council members on the fire board. But the reality is, and I'll just speak from experience. I mean, I've been on the police council. This is my 7th year, right? And no one has ever asked me a question about how, until recently, a few questions. Nobody ever asked a question about, you know, how much, why are we spending so much money or too little money or whatever on the police, right? People just don't, there's not a lot of public engagement on this stuff. If the services are working well, people are fine. But just to make the point that it's a little harder to get information about police and fire because of the JPAs. I mean, I don't think it's that hard, but you know, it's another layer.
Well, I appreciate Forrest asking the question because I do believe there would be more people asking questions now. So we might just.
Yeah, right. Well, I think that's in part why we want to have this information presented here, so that people, because there are more questions, I think, over the last number of months about both police and fire, because police issues are more significant, fire issues are more significant. So it's important that we have other people like you folks aware of those issues.
Right. Any other questions before we move on? And certainly you can ask any at the very end as well.
Hey, I just have one kind of related question. Talking about police budgets, has there been any push for defunding like we've seen on the county level for the sheriffs?
I can let John take that, or I can take it.
I'm happy to take it. I would say in Central Marin, no.
Okay.
I've not had that. We had a special meeting of the police council a number of weeks ago, you know, after the Floyd stuff.
Mm-hmm.
A few people, but they weren't actually pushing defunding. So it's really been kind of a non-issue in this community.
Huh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'm going to move on to opportunities, and we can stop me at any time. You know, I want to make this informal if you have questions. So, you know, as I mentioned, especially in light of all the changes in the last 6 months, we're always looking for new opportunities to join in partnership on things that make sense to do collectively. As I mentioned before, you know, police and fire are sort of the low-hanging fruit to make this happen. There's a lot of barriers to getting agreement among all the different agencies. There's labor contracts. It's quite complex, but it's doable. It's been done a lot. We're seeing some activity down in the southern part of the county with potential consolidation of police forces. You know, for instance, you know, with our JPA, we've taken on executive management from the county. You know, and during that time, Larkspur and Corte Madera have joined forces to create a new JPA, the Central Marin Fire Authority. So these things are constantly moving and evolving. So I would expect over the next probably not too many number of years that we'll see more of that in the county, and it may even be, you know, we may be involved in some of it. I think another low-hanging fruit area is continued potential expansion of the sharing of Department of Public Works functions. You know, we've been talking to Fairfax for a while now about the potential for sharing sort of a public works crew superintendent type position who would be overseeing the worker, all the people that work, and, you know, kind of helping manage projects and becoming, you know, more efficient, and who knows about maybe even down the line having a merged set of crew doing different things. And Sean, our public works director, is very dynamic and always looking for opportunities such as that. So that's a definite opportunity. Along with, there was some talk during some of the city manager discussions about getting beyond paving and drainage and doing even, you know, we pay a lot of money to keep our streets striped. You know, all the paint comes up and you got to keep doing it. You know, sort of looking at maybe a master contract for that, which would reduce the costs. And it's just a matter of looking out 5 years and kind of getting it all planned and taking the time. And then, you know, I think any striping company would jump at that, and they would give you quite a nice discount for the assurance of all that work for 5 years. And we're actually in current discussions, and I'm pretty confident this is all going to happen. We get some local money from the Marin Wildfire Protection Agency to use for various things. We're using some of it for evacuation route clearing. I grew up back on the hill back here, and it was just a tunnel of trees. And so we're trying to make sure that, you know, we have clearance so there's not a tunnel of fire people have to drive through if there's a fire in the hills. We're working, obviously, everybody knows about the goats. That's kind of part of that. We're also going to be developing a disaster services coordinator position that will be shared. It'll be a Ross Valley position. It'll be, you know, Fairfax, Ross, and San Anselmo. We actually had a meeting that was canceled last Friday because our chief was out at the fire in West Marin. But we're pretty close to advertising that position. And that's something that's, I think, a long time coming. You know, it's one of those positions that you always want to have, but it ends up falling. I'm the, you know, the incident commander in an emergency. I sure would love to have some work with community happen before we have to deal with that. And that position should be virtually all community-based, and working with the fire safe communities or the FireWise communities, developing neighborhood resources groups. Some of those are already in the works, the age-friendly program. But I think we're, you know, and I'm kind of leading this charge because I think it's one of the things we need to do right away. So I'm hoping we get that stood up this fall. And then, you know, we have you probably know, we have what I feel is an amazing sustainability commission. There's been some great work over the last few years. We have an amazing group of people. And I feel like this year we actually took one of our existing staff and tried to make that person kind of have a small portion of his job dedicated to helping with the Sustainability Commission. And we hope to sort of keep moving that ball, and maybe to the point where there's a kind of like the disaster services coordinator, potentially someone who works in at least Fairfax and San Anselmo on these efforts. And because all the commission in both towns, they're all volunteers. They're all very skilled in their own way, but we can't expect work to be carried out. You know, a lot of that falls to the Public Works Department. So we're hoping to develop that. It's been something that I think there's a lot of interest in. We're going to be doing some stuff this fall, which is pretty exciting. And so our current person is kind of is set to do that work, but we really want to make that something that somebody is dedicated to. It's not going to be a full-time position. It'll be something like what we're doing with the disaster services coordinator, but it'll be somewhat sort of singular function, which I think is what we need. So those are a couple. You know, it's great when you can do it with your right next door neighbors, because it just makes sense to do something valley-wide rather than just for, you know, stopping at each of our borders, because we're all dealing with the same stuff. So those are some examples of things that are coming down the pike. Like I say, we're always have our ear to the ground, and the managers at all 11 of us, we meet twice a week on Zoom. We're constantly working on different things. So I think that the benefit of that is ideas can be flipped and flown, and some of them really make sense, and we get to work on them. So I think you should have good confidence that that's something that's this whole area is a priority for the council and the staff. And with that, we'll take any additional questions.
Question?
Yeah, Lori.
Going back to potential of using like the planning department in Fairfax and San Anselmo, there's very different rules between different towns.
Right.
So how would that work? Would the 2 towns have, or 3 towns have to have the same rules, or would this person? I mean,
I don't think there's any talk of actually merging the planning departments. I think what Richard was referring to was the development of design standards that could be applied by the planning commission, by the planning departments individually, as projects come through the door. I don't think we're talking about actually sharing planning staff or anything like that, because you're right. The municipal codes are all different. That would be a little bit of a mess. It might make sense long term, but I think people like their individual stuff, you know?
yeah, okay, so I misunderstood. It's more on a county level as far as the planning for the bigger projects and all that.
It's actually, it's really developing standards that can be applied to, right now we're working on multifamily units, and those are going to be applied locally to anything that comes through the door, but it just gives a better framework to review and to judge, rather than leaving it to the you know, you want to kind of narrow what the actual planning commissioners have to you know, use as their judgment, really kind of make sure that all the boxes are checked. And it's something that we'd like to then apply to our single family home design and objective standards as well. So Lisa's working hard on it. And I think it's made sense because they're so similar. There's definitely some differences, but they're going to end up being so similar. It made sense to hire one consultant to kind of create the baseline standards, and then each town will tweak them as needed.
I gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right, well, if there's no more questions, I wanted to just sort of paint that picture. And moving on, I know there were some other topics that I think Marie wanted to bring up.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure, should we open to the public comment, just in case there is someone from the public?
Thank you. Yes, we should.
We should. We are opening the floor. The floor is open.
I'm not sure if anybody's here.
I don't think they are, right? Can you check on your end?
There are two people
Okay.
here, but they have not raised their hand.
Okay.
Okay, we are good with that. So let's move to the next item then.
Okay. That's
Yeah,
you.
so this is the time to, I was wondering if that would be the right time now to give a quick update on the subcommittee, or do we code that for the agenda for the next meeting? How do we do that, Dave?
I think we can, that's it's comments. You can make that as comments. You can talk about the subcommittee. We didn't put it on as an item, but you can get everybody caught up.
Richard, do you want me to go, or do you want to give a little update of what happened yesterday?
Oh, go ahead. Sure.
Oh, okay, so yeah, so Richard and I, mainly Richard, started working a little bit on what should we do with that little subcommittee. And we ended up meeting yesterday with Dave, Richard, and Helen, and have discussed the idea of starting small, not starting strategically for the next 10 years, starting with something that we think we could be doing quickly, and which is really a simple kind of FAQ with a few questions, a few answers, some links, something dynamic that we could be presenting to you at the next meeting, sending it ahead of time so you have time to review. And so we could show you what we can work on that for the next 3 weeks, show you something at the next meeting, you comment, or you have time to digest, and then we can publish that kind of a little bit on behalf of the committee, right? A little bit of the committee is working on those questions, and they were suggesting to send at the same time as you would send us through your newsletter some kind of little survey asking people for their questions. So we can get started with having a list of, we can start with 5 or 10 questions, and then the following months, we start adding more to that. We present it to you, we get into that routine of, we work during the month, we present it to you, we publish. We keep adding based on your question, but also importantly on gathering other questions from the public. Am I representing well, Richard?
No, that's correct. And, like you said, FAQ is frequently asked questions, although I'm not sure they're actually frequently asked, but they may be questions that are important topics. And then hopefully they're topics that we can address with objective information to get it out there as part, to feed into the community discussion or political discussion. So, we'll have to be a little bit thoughtful about how we handle that. But, there may be issues or questions about, and you pointed this one out, Marie, perhaps funding of Memorial Park improvements, for instance. What are some of the options perhaps, or capacity of the town? And again, trying to be objective and not take a position one way or the other. So it's a way to try and get information out into the community, which, I find is sorely lacking if you rely on the Marin IJ for information about issues, for instance. So I think it could be really useful, and also a way to communicate what our committee is doing and what we're learning, and trying to phrase it in very basic topical question form rather than, a more dry, extensive discussion that you might find somewhere else. So anyhow, those are just a few additional thoughts, the things we had talked about.
Thank you, Richard. Any question from anybody about that? Just want to make sure you know that we are planning.
Have you thought about how you would disseminate this information? Is this something that would be added on to, let's say, Dave's weekly blast, or? What?
Dave, you may want to talk about that because yes, we discussed that yesterday and we have a few
Yeah,
ideas.
yeah. You know, typically the town, you know, we put together Carla did. She's the deer. What's called San Selmo Connect or Connect San Selmo. Anyway, it's a portal that we have where you can go in and grab a bunch of sort of FAQ type information, but it also has a how to get involved one, which has all these ways you can set yourself up to receive, you know, Alert Marin and my newsletter and all those different things. So that's available. And within that, what we typically do to push information out, now we're always looking for ways to have a two-way conversation. That's why, you know, this agenda item that you're asking for might offer that. We send out, obviously we blast everything that's important through my newsletter, but at the same time, we put it on what we call the town spotlight on the front of the website, on the town's website, and we put it on Nextdoor and we put it on Facebook, and we sort of do that simultaneously. We've done most recently the Sustainability Commission put out a survey about everybody's opinion on leaf blowers, and yeah, I think we're over 300 responses, which for us is really good. And it's only been a week and a half. So that's been pretty effective. Though that's really the way we get things out. We'll also do for some projects, we'll do mailers within 500 feet of where things are going to happen. But I think for something like this, it would be that social media combined with our website combined with an email blast, and that has a pretty good reach. It's about 5,500 people's emails
Out of 12,000.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I figure a lot of the adults, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank
That's
you.
how we get it out. So it sounds like to me that this agenda item will be put on the next agenda, and we'll pick that day tonight. And sometimes so just so everybody understands with the Brown Act, anything that goes out to the commission around something that is going to be on the agenda has to be made available by the public at the same time. So anything that we put out, like if you guys want to put out something preliminarily to be reviewed prior to the meeting, we'll coordinate that and we'll put it on the meeting agenda website for this committee, just so we're.
That would definitely be on the agenda next time, and we will prepare for whatever we have.
Exactly.
We'll have time to review it before.
So whatever's going out before the meeting has to be available.
Well, I'd like to applaud the efforts for more, public communication. The shocking reality is that there's very little public engagement in San Anselmo. I'm sure it's true elsewhere about budget issues and financial issues. Now, partly that's because things have been generally okay for the last number of years, but we may be going into a period of some difficulty. So I think it's important that we do make whatever efforts we can to get people engaged, so that there's no surprises and people don't get upset because there's some reduction of service at the town hall or whatever, because we're actually making pretty significant decisions to the town council on budget stuff, but we just don't get a lot of public input. So whatever can be done to improve that would be great. Maybe more social media. I don't know. I mean, people are very busy, so we can't force people to pay attention. I think we just only can do what we can.
But John, people also have a little bit more time right now and might be actually paying attention to different things that they were not paying attention before. So there might be an opportunity.
Could be, could be.
I do hope so, because we're working to do it. So hopefully people will read it, not just Richard and I.
Yes.
All right, I wanted to reach back and make sure that there's no public questions. I'm looking and I see Eric and Stacy. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to raise your hand and we'll get you in here. I appreciate you guys being here. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. I think we should open the floor up. I think you were in the middle of sort of new agenda items, requests for new agenda items. So yeah.
Is there anything? Is there anything else that? Oh yes, Laurie.
I actually have two different potential agenda items. I would be interested in knowing what would the cost be of this whole business of renaming Sir Francis Drake Boulevard if that actually comes about. How is the town going to be affected by that? And really, what are the ramifications if it gets changed? So I'd be very interested in hearing that on our town level. Yeah. The other thing is, I'm curious how much money has San Anselmo lost because of COVID? I don't think we have a huge sales tax base, but there's got to be a percentage that we're losing and a dollar value. So I'd be very
Yeah.
interested in knowing that as well.
Thank you. Those are great questions. And I'll let you know that the question about the impact on all the towns, if the name were to be changed, is being explored right now. We expect to have all that data. I'm part of that group. All the managers and finance directors and public works directors are kind of looking into what every from top to bottom, what it would mean. And I think in November that report's going to come out. So that's already happening. And then regarding the, it is sales tax. We don't have a TOT. We don't have a transient occupancy tax. We don't have hotels. We don't. So that's, you know, we're not hit, but we are being hit by sales tax. And we have a sales tax analyst that we work with, and they have given us those projections. And I don't know if you have those at your fingertips, but we've baked those assumptive losses into our budget for this year. And
Oh, okay, good.
subsequently, we've also had to make some difficult budget reduction decisions as part of the budget program. So, you know, we're really trying to live, as I always say, live within our means. So with those expected losses, we've accounted for them and come in with a balanced budget, but Helen can show you the gravity of what that looks like if we can find it.
Okay, I know that you had discussed on an earlier meeting about how all the departments were cutting back and everything. So I was just curious what it was in actual dollars.
I want to say it was 750.
I think for the total, it's really different items. You know, for example, like sales tax, potentially about $100,000. And also, we also say our permit, construction permit is not meet target about, you know, short by probably $100,000. Again, we also have other costs related to deal with COVID-19 expenditure side as well. I'm trying to find the information.
Now, Helen, those $100,000, that was for last fiscal year, correct?
Yes.
I think Lori's looking for impact on the current fiscal year. Is that what you're looking? Expect? But we
If
got
possible. Yeah.
Right. So I will say the immediate, the physical impact probably not as severe, but however, a lot of stuff is down the road, such as, you know, pension cost and fund liability increase potential, as well as, for example, the governor allowed deferred, which is impact our cash flow issue for sales tax potential about 1 year defer. And also, for example, if current year for our property tax, we are still okay because not many homeowners get impacted file reassessment. But however, potentially the year after, you know, if people's home value drop or, you know, the income level get impacted, they might come back, say, you know, a property tax reassessment, then that can impact that year's collection. So a lot of stuff maybe not immediate impact, but it definitely down the road have potential impact.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other future agenda item requests from anybody? I'm looking. Forrest, I'm saying a no. Eric is smiling. So, are we good with that? So is it just a time to talk about our next, we're done with this meeting and talk about the next time for the next meeting?
We have one hand raised, just so you know.
Oh, sorry. Oh, thank you, Carla. Eric.
Hey, Eric.
Yes, I was just curious. Stacy and I were here because we understood that there was going to be some discussion around converting San Anselmo Avenue to one-way.
Oh, that meeting was last night.
That was last night.
Yeah, sorry, Eric. It was last night at 6 o'clock. Yeah, we had about 40 people there.
Got it. Okay. Was that also recorded then, or?
Yeah, it sure was. Yeah, I can talk to Sean about trying to get that out to you guys.
It's recorded and it's on our San Anselmo YouTube page. So if you go over there, you'll be able to see it.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
We thought you were interested in the finances.
Well,
We're glad to have some other people.
Yeah.
Yes. No, it's been fascinating as well.
All right. Sorry you guys
Thank
missed
you.
that.
No worries.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So now on to the meeting scheduling for next meeting and the time. We have been when I look at all the agenda item and we looked at them with Dave and Richard yesterday, it seems that we have plenty to maybe at least for now meet monthly until we kind of get more like around our knowledge. So if everybody is in agreement with that, we propose to meet next month on September 27 with some of the, and we will work through the agenda to figure out what's the best agenda item for next month. I don't know exactly what we're going to decide, but are you in agreement that there is enough going on that we need to keep going?
So are you saying September 24th, which is a Thursday?
Oh, yeah, exactly. Thank you so much. Yes, I keep messing up with that. I thought I had looked at it. So if it is 20, yes.
So will we have on that agenda just the information that you,
Correct.
that you and Richard are talking about, or?
I was kind of hoping that, we have a list that you guys gave us back in June.
Yeah.
And we're hoping to bring the capital improvements presentation to that meeting.
Oh, good.
And
Okay.
then, so we'll do probably those two. If you don't mind, we'd love to kind of get caught up with all these different items on a series of shorter meetings, and then get to work next year. So, there's a number of things you had asked for, and we thought that CIP, Capital Improvement Program, could be our September topic along with the subcommittee's work.
Okay, then I make a motion that we have a meeting on September 24th.
Super.
I'll second that.
Okay. So now the next meeting will happen on September 24th. Thank you, Laurie.
Can we take a roll call vote just because there's
yes.
a motion in a second? Yeah.
Because Laurie Forrest?
Aye.
Yes. Eric?
Yep.
Yes. Marie? Yes. This is really,
I know it's hard. I appreciate that. I'm not even sure we needed to do that as
no, I didn't know I had that for that one, but
I
here we
always
go.
appreciate it. It's better to do it with it in case you were supposed to.
Absolutely. So now the meeting is adjourned, and have a great month. Survive through the bad weather, and we talk on September 24th.
Thank you for everybody's time.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Carla.